Hi, this is Stevie. Today I wanted to do a little project for you in case you're thinking about doing some watercolor sketches to put on Christmas cards or ornaments or even little gift tags. And I have a couple of ornaments here. I got them a year or two ago, and I've done a few of these with watercolor paintings on the front. And of course, you can't do the watercolor right on the wood. So what I do is I'll do the watercolor sketch, and then I have to paint. You don't have to, but it looks nicer. Here's a painted one. I painted this one with gold acrylic paint that I got at the local Michael's store. And it makes a nice little gift, and I have some hanging on our own tree and some that I've given away. So what I'm doing today, I have these little bells that I put on our Christmas tree last year. These are pretty small. I had some bigger ones and I can't find them. But anyway, I'm sort of using them as a model, but they're so tiny and squished that I'm just using one that I saw in a book or something, a larger one, as a model or a reference for this little sketch. Anyway, I hope you can see that sketch of the bell. And I have one simple line here that's going to be a pine branch, like a Christmas tree branch. And then what I'll have, oh, I didn't draw it. But something like that. And it's a nice quick sketch and makes a nice little ornament or gift on the front of a card. And you might see also that I have some pencil marks on the sides here. I should erase them a bit because they're pretty bold, but what I did was I laid down this ornament to know how big it's going to be. When you do one of these, if you're going to do it for an ornament, always do it on a piece of paper that's larger than this. Don't start out by cutting out a piece of paper like this and trying to paint on that. It really doesn't work well. Do it on a regular size paper first, but be wary or be aware of the edges. And right here, I went outside the line. Here's the edge of that ornament, so I'm just going to bring it in a little bit, like this. Oh, let's see here. I'm going to do that over. I'll just do it like this. That'll be good enough. Okay, so that's my sketch. I'm going to do a gold bell with a red ribbon, and then of course we'll have the Christmas tree branch behind it. So I'm going to start with the Christmas tree branch because that's in the background. And when I first want to give the illusion of something in the background. So I want to be sure to wet my paper first so that I can get the color nice and soft. So I'm just going to look for a brush here. Here's my Princeton Neptune number 10. The Princeton Neptune brushes are soft bristle brushes and they hold a lot of water. So I'm just going to use that and I'm going to stay away from the ribbon and the bell, the ribbon and the bell. And then I'm not going to go all the way down, but I'll get some color around it too. Anyway, what I want to do is pick up a green color and make it look like there's some branches in the background. And I'm going to switch, now that I've got the water down on the paper, I'm going to switch to my number 6. This is a Princeton Heritage, which is a bristle, synthetic bristle brush. And the bristles are a little stiffer. So I'm going to pick up a color that I have called Cascade Green. And this color is made by Daniel Smith. And I really like this color. I'm putting some water on it so you can watch it granulate. And the color starts to separate, and there's a lot of blue in it, which is really pretty, like a blue-green. So, and that's a cool color. So that's why I'm using that for the background. And I'm going to add a little bit of ultramarine blue to that. And I don't want too too much paint on my brush, I'm picking up lots of water as well, because this color is in the background and I don't want it to be too prominent. And I'm just making some little marks. Keep in mind this paper's wet, so everything that I put down bleeds out, and that's what makes it look like it's in the distance. I have some dry spots here. I'm just going to blend that out. And you know, I forgot to add a little bit of lighter green. I have a green gold color. You could use yellow too, but I just wanted to get, when I paint green branches, not branches, green leaves or something like the pine needles, I like to get some lighter color in there too. And I'm going to put a little of that around here. Some parts of this paper are not as wet anymore because I live in Arizona and it dries really fast. So I'm just going to work quickly. If I have to add more water, I can at this point. Spread out a little of that color up there. And it just gives a nice look to it. Where you see these yellow areas by themselves, I'm going to get some green in there so that there will be some green. Okay, so I just, and all I do is kind of give the impression that there's pine needles here and there. These aren't the final pine needles that we're going to have on the branch, but just something for a background. I'll have it look like some are going behind this ribbon. It's hard to talk and paint at the same time. Something like this. This over here I want to blend out a little more and get a little more green over there. I don't like the yellow so close to the edge. Some of that isn't even going to show on my ornament when I do that, but I still like to make it the right way. And you can see how some of it fades out so much you can barely see it. But that's okay. It just still suggests that there's something in the background. I have to let that dry a bit before I go in and do the other pine needles on the branches. So I'm just going to let this sit. Maybe get a little in here. Okay, that's good enough. So I'll let that sit, and I need for it to dry up a little bit before I finish the branch. But I can go ahead and get started on this, on the bell. And I'm going to use quinacridone gold for that. If you don't have something like quinacridone gold, or Indian yellow might work, or nickel azo yellow. Quinacridone gold is nice, but if you don't have that, a yellow ochre or a raw sienna would work for this too, to make it look like a gold color. So first I'm going to wet. Now this whole area I can wet at one time. The stars and these little marks in the bell, those are going to be black. So I can just do the black right over that, and I don't have to worry about saving those colors. I'll just go ahead and wet the whole surface. So the whole bell is going to get wet. I have a little color on my brush, but that's okay. It helps you to see where I'm putting water. I'm sorry about the street noise. I have to step away and close our front door. I have to get the top of the bell too. I'm not going to do this little space up here yet because everything dries so fast here. So I'm going to take my my quinacridone gold, and I'll start over here on the left. If you go outside the lines, don't worry too much. You can adjust that later on. I did that in some of my practice ones, and I just made the bell a little bit bigger. That's how I solved that problem. The other thing you could do, if you're more comfortable doing that, is you could add, make it a line and wash, and before you even start the sketch, do your dark lines, ink your lines with something like a micron pen that's permanent ink and waterproof. So that's another option, but I wanted to do this without the line and wash just so you could see it. And I'm going to remember that this is a round shape, so it'll be darker around the edges and lighter at some point in the middle or somewhere, maybe this is my area of highlight right here. And I'll have to add another color to make some shadows on this, but I'll do that when I do a second layer. Okay, so up to the top of the bell, I'm going to add more water just to make sure it's still wet. Again, with a dirty brush. And I'll leave a little light area on this side too. And if you forget to leave your light area or kind of go over it, which I did, I just take a paper towel and dab it a little bit and get another light area and then just go around it. That should work fine. And then we have this little piece that goes around the ball. I left a highlight on that. I'm just going to leave that. And then we'll create more dimension on that little ball when we put in some shadows. So that's a good start. Oh, now I can go back, and I'm going to get a smaller brush though. I was working with my number, this was a number 6, but I'm going to pick up my number 2, which is a much smaller brush. It's not a liner brush, although I guess you could use a liner brush, but it's just a nice skinny little brush just to do that little handle on the bell. And I'm going to paint the 2 sides of it and then just skip a little bit to leave a little bit of a highlight on it. That's such a small space, I guess it doesn't really matter. Okay, and then the ribbon is going to be red, but I think I'll go back in. I think I'll go back in and work on the pine needles before I do that ribbon. I'm going to step away for just a moment and dry this with a heat gun so I can continue. Okay, I'm back. So I think what I'll do is work on the branch and the pine needles some more before I go any further. And I'm just using my number 2. You could use a liner brush for this. A number 4 would probably work too, but I'm going to use the number 2. And to start with, I'm going to make the branch, and I'm going to use my quinacridone burnt orange. This is like burnt sienna, and I just like this color instead. But you can use burnt sienna. You could even use a burnt umber for this if that's all you have. And I'm going to notice that I'm not going to make a straight line. It's going to be, you know how a branch isn't just straight and it's got bumps and lumps in it. I'm not really giving dimension to it. It's not really wide enough, but just making it look like a branch. Something like that. That looks much more realistic than a straight line. And now quickly before that dries, I'm going to go back here to my green color, my Cascade Green, and I'll be using several colors to do these little pine needles. I like to have different colors. I'll be using some of my green gold, which is this color here. Hope you can see this. This is green gold. I'll be using some of that, adding a little bit of ultramarine blue here and there, probably. I just like to kind of mix it up. But the first thing I'll do is add a little bit of green gold. And here's where I just do a very loose stroke. I'm going to show you, here I was doing something yesterday. When I do the pine needles, that's the branch, I stand my brush up, and even if you have a liner brush, I do this, but I'm not very careful at all. The pine needles go in different directions, back and forth, and I'll even add a little green to it so you can see. And what I was showing, yesterday I was doing a demo, and I did this as an example. I see a lot of pine branches drawn like this, with the little branch or the little needles lined up like soldiers. And it doesn't look very realistic, but wouldn't you rather look at something like this that has a lot more interest to it, more color, more variation? And this is really more true to life. So that's pretty much how I do pine needles. And I'll start, well, I'm going to start here, kind of start in the middle. And they go every which way. They go back and forth. Oh, I just went through the, I went through the ribbon, so it's that I'm going to have to draw it that way now. That's okay. And I pick up a little bit of my Quin Burnt Orange because that color looks really good next to green. I'm trying to tone down that branch too. I waited, when I was showing you how to do these needles, I let that dry so it's very prominent. And I don't normally let a branch do that. Here I'm being careful to go around the ribbon. And I start down here just to get used to doing what I'm doing before I go back. This part really isn't even going to show if I'm going to put this on an ornament, but nevertheless, I still like to make it look right. Picking up a little more of the green gold with the green. And I want to get some dark color in there. I just want to break up that brown branch. When you see that continuous line like that, it's very distracting to the eye. So I want to break that up. I probably should have spritzed it as soon as I did it, and I just waited too long. Here I'm just extending a couple of these needles behind the ribbon. And you can keep doing this. For the sake of moving on, I'll just move on. You could do more branches, more than just the one branch that I did. It's up to you. So we'll go back to the bell now, and I'm going to start adding a little bit of dimension to it with some shadow. And I have my quinacridone burnt orange here, and a good shadow mix generally, a good black mix is quinacridone burnt orange plus ultramarine blue. I don't want it to be quite gray because of the color of the bell. I'm going to start here underneath this little round piece that goes around it, and just to show you what the color is. Hope you can see this. Pick up a little more Quin Burnt Orange. I kind of like this. I wouldn't normally use this color for a shadow, but I like it with the gold. And I'm rinsing my brush off, and just with a little water, I'm just going to pull some of that color out because I don't want a hard line for the shadow. It's kind of hard with this small brush, but that'll do the trick. And that way, I'm using the small brush so the color doesn't extend way down. But now I will go to my number 4 brush. This is a Princeton Velvet Touch, another synthetic brush. And so what I'll do now is pick up that same color that I mixed, the Quin Burnt Orange with a little bit of the ultramarine blue in it. And you could do it one of two ways. You can, I'll do a section here. You can wet it first, and I'll show you what that looks like. Then you just be careful not to let your color bleed out too much. And look how quickly everything dries here. So now what I did there was I just I rinsed my brush and just picked up water, just plain water, to spread that color out. So I'll continue on around. Now I have to work quickly. I don't want that hard line, so I have to work very quickly to soften it out. And so over on this side, I could take it out a little further because that's kind of my shadow side of the object. Let's turn it around and look at it. Have to fix one thing. Just make sure there's no hard lines. Really blend it out so there's no hard lines. There's a water line there. Okay, that looks pretty good. I'll probably even go back and do a little more, but I have to let this layer dry first. but I can go to the top and do that. So same process. I don't have to worry about the stars or anything. I can go right over it. And back to my shadow color with a little bit of blue. Oh, I didn't want too much there because that's my, I do need some shadow, but not too much. That's my light side of the object, where the light source is. I'll go back and fix that. I just want less shadow here. Oh, here I got some paint down in the corner of my sheet. It's not going to matter because I'm going to use this one for an ornament. But so you know, a lot of times when I do that, I have this spritzer bottle that I bought at Walmart for $1. And what I do, I'll show you here so you can see it. This is a staining color, so it may not work as well. But if I spritz that stain, it lightens it up quite a bit. And I do that quite often. It depends on the paper you're using. Some papers are more forgiving than others. And this is bothering me here, but there's a water line here, but I'm gonna add a little more gold color too, and that'll probably get rid of that water line. Here's another one. There, okay. All right, while that's drying, I'll go up and do the ribbon. And the ribbon is just going to be red. I'm going to use my CAD red for that. Gonna clear a little spot here. And so for the ribbon, because it twists and turns, I'll start here. I'm gonna do one little section at a time because everything dries so fast. So I'm gonna wet this, and you can't have so much water that it's sitting on top of the surface because you won't be able to control your paint if that's the case. But I'll show you. Here's cadmium red. This is CAD red light. So I'm going to put the color down here on the tip of the ribbon. And I had to get some of the water off my brush. And as the ribbon turns, it would get lighter. And that's what I'm trying to represent here, to let that color bleed. See how it's bleeding together, but it's lighter? See that? That's the value of wetting your paper, to be able to control that color and let it bleed together. Another dirty brush. I just keep wiping it on your paper towel if you have too much water. So I'll start here. And put some down here. And already this is drying. And then it's not floating together, but I'm just gonna coax it a little bit there. So you can see that there's a difference in value. And I'm gonna use my number 2 to get in here and do the thin part of the ribbon right here, where it's twisting. Okay, see that? And here where it started to blend together too much, I can go back in and remove, while it's still wet, I can lighten that up a bit so you can see the light, the lighter value. You can also add, I have one little thing to finish up here. The skinny part of this ribbon that goes behind those pine needles, like that. And the other thing you can do is to go back in and add a darker value. I'll show you here. I'm just going to take a section and do it just to show you. Like here, where it would be darker because of the way the object turns. I don't have alizarin crimson on my palette, but this is carmine, which is close. It's close to alizarin crimson. And where it would be darker, I can put in some of that carmine color, and that will give the further illusion of the turning of the form. or like right here where the ribbon turns. There we go. So there's our little ribbon. So I'm just going to take ultramarine blue, and when you do this mix to make a black, for me, it's more of the blue and less of the quinacridone burnt orange or burnt sienna. So more of the blue, less of the other color. And that I just like a black going more toward the blue color. But you can play with it and see what you like. Anyhow, I'm going to start here because I'm left-handed. And I just quickly drew in these little stars, and it's not even that great of a drawing, but it doesn't matter. And here, this also, you may have to go back in and reinforce the color once it dries, because it'll start to lighten up. And I did one more thing. I have some watercolors that I've had for quite some time. They're called starry colors or something, and they're different shades of gold. And I thought it might be nice to spatter some gold onto my little sketch. So I got those out, and hopefully it'll be in the camera here. There you go. So I just took a little of the gold color, got lots of water on it because it's really hard paint, and just spattered on some of the gold. And I thought that was a nice little finishing touch for this cute little painting. And then off camera, I also added some snow to the little pine branch, and I'll show that photo right at the end. It was just something I did after I stopped the video. So that's my finished little piece, and I think it turned out pretty cute. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate it. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up and think about subscribing.